What happens when a political debate stops being about policy and becomes a public execution? What happens when an insult, hurled on live television, isn't just an insult, but the trigger for a trap that's been waiting for months to be sprung? Today, we're going to Capitol Hill. But this isn't a story about bills and amendments. This is a story about a showdown. On one side, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a brilliant legal mind, armed with facts and a spine of steel. On the other, Marjorie Greene, a political brawler who came not to debate, but to dominate. Greene was about to throw a punch, live in front of millions. What she didn't know was that Crockett was ready to end the fight for good. The air in the hearing chamber was cold, thick with the gloss of marble and the silent hum of live cameras, their red lights blinking like sniper sights. Jasmine Crockett sat at the bench, her notes meticulously aligned. She wasn't just prepared. She was a surgeon about to perform a high-stakes operation. Across the chamber, Marjorie Greene was the opposite. She was reclined, leg draped over an armrest, her posture radiating pure contempt. She hadn't come with binders full of data. She'd come with a smirk and a plan. Disruption. Jasmine had the floor. Her voice was firm, measured, as she began dissecting the so-called Restore Patriotism Act. She peeled back its patriotic title to expose what it really was, a legislative Trojan horse designed to erase black history, suppress LGBTQ+ narratives, and legalize discrimination. She was citing federal law, laying out irrefutable facts, when the interruption came. It was loud, deliberate, and designed to wound. Greene's chair scraped against the floor. She leaned into her microphone, that predatory grin stretching wide. "You're embarrassing this chamber," she spat, her voice ricocheting off the walls. "Honestly, I've seen high schoolers handle debate better than this moron." The room stiffened. A collective gasp. Greene twisted the knife. "Is this what we're funding with taxpayer money now? Moronic grandstanding." The chairman's gavel slammed down, but it was too late. The insult, a weaponized word lobbed not once, but 3 times, had hit its mark. This was the oldest, ugliest trick in the book. Provoke the black woman, then call her angry when she dares to fight back. Greene leaned back, smug, believing she'd won. She thought she'd broken Jasmine Crockett, but she had no idea what she'd just done. Jasmine didn't flinch. She didn't raise her voice. She simply reached for a notepad and, with the calm of a bomb disposal expert, wrote 3 words: attack. Plan. Confirmed. Greene had just pulled a pin on a grenade she didn't even know Crockett were holding. As the chairman restored a fragile order, Jasmine's aide moved like a shadow, placing a slim black folder on her desk. Inside wasn't just notes. It was an arsenal, a timeline of emails, donation records, and receipts linking Greene to a network of extremist donors and disinformation groups. For weeks, they had gathered it, waiting for the right moment. Greene's arrogance had just handed it to them. Jasmine Crockett stood up. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was hers. Her voice was different now. Stripped of all emotion, it was colder and sharper than any insult. "Mr. Chairman," she began, "I'd like to enter into the record a financial report showing a $25,000 contribution from Congresswoman Greene's office to an organization known as Heritage Shield." A ripple went through the room. Heritage Shield. The name was poison. Jasmine let the name hang in the air before delivering the next blow. An entity flagged by the FBI as a T2 domestic threat group with known links to anti-government militias. The smirk on Greene's face finally vanished. "Fake news," she snapped, her voice a little too sharp, a little too loud. "That document's doctored. This is a witch hunt." Jasmine didn't argue. She didn't need to. She simply lifted a single sheet of paper from the folder, a high-resolution scan of a digital invoice. On the screen above, the image appeared, clean and damning. Recipient, Heritage Shield. Amount, $25,000. Signature, Marjorie Greene. Jasmine let everyone in the room, everyone watching across America, absorb the image. Then she looked directly at Greene for the first time, her eyes like ice. "Congresswoman," she asked, her voice quiet but deadly, "if this is fake news, who forged your signature?" The chamber was paralyzed, but Jasmine wasn't finished. The paper had cut deep. Now came the blade. "Mr. Chairman," She said, "I'd like to submit audio-visual evidence. It's only 17 seconds long." The lights dimmed. The screen flickered to life. Grainy, handheld footage from a private fundraiser. There was Greene, holding a glass of bourbon, speaking to a room of wealthy donors. The audio was clear as a bell. "If we let these equity morons run things," Greene said with a casual laugh, "we're done as a country." The screen went black, but the image of Greene's smug, conspiratorial face was burned into everyone's mind. The silence in the chamber was suffocating. The Marjorie Taylor Greene sitting there now was not the woman on that screen. Her face was pale, her bluster shattered. For the first time, she didn't look defiant. She looked exposed. And as Greene's world began to crumble, a new voice emerged from the back of the room. A woman in a charcoal gray suit stood up. "Mr. Chairman," she said, her voice cutting through the tension, "I request to speak as a material witness." The chairman, caught off guard, asked her to state her name. Her reply hit the room like a lightning strike. Allison Trent, former communications director to Congresswoman Greene. The room exploded. Truth is dangerous. But truth from the inside, that's lethal. Allison Trent walked to the podium, carrying a thin folder that held the weight of a political career. "I served as communications director to Congresswoman Greene for 16 months, she began, her voice steady. "During that time, I was instructed to coordinate messaging that intentionally provoked outrage." She pulled out a single printed email. "This is a communication from Greene's senior strategy team, dated May 18th. She handed it to the clerk, then looked into the cameras and delivered the line that would end it all. Quote, "Make sure to call Crockett a moron. It plays well with the base." Chaos. An absolute firestorm of shock and outrage. This wasn't a gaffe. This was strategy. This was cruelty as a political tool, planned and executed in cold blood. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't move. She just stared at the table, her hands gripping the edge, knuckles bone white. The mask of the brawler had fallen away, revealing someone small, cornered, and utterly defeated. It was in that moment of deafening silence that another voice rose. Not a politician, not a staffer, a woman from the public gallery, her face weathered with the stories of a lifetime, the mother of a veteran. "My son fought in Iraq," she said, her voice soft but powerful, aimed directly at Greene. "He fought for the ideals you now seek to undermine. He fought to protect the very people you attack. You stand there calling people morons, but my son was taught to see them as Americans." She turned to Jasmine. "And you, Miss Crockett, you are standing for the dignity of this country. You are standing for every one of us who's been pushed aside." The room was electric. The weight of that mother's words, the raw, undeniable truth of them, was more powerful than any political maneuvering. And then it happened. Marjorie Taylor Greene stood up, not with defiance, but with a slow, heavy movement of someone who knows the ground has vanished from beneath their feet. She didn't say a word. She didn't look back. She simply turned and walked out of the chamber. The only sound was the click of her heels fading down the hall. She hadn't stormed out. She had retreated. She had been exposed not just by her opponent, but by her own staff, and judged by the very people she claimed to represent. And as she left, something incredible happened. A Democrat stood up, then another, then, shockingly, a Republican from a deep red state rose to his feet. Not clapping, not cheering, just standing. A silent, bipartisan acknowledgement the line had been crossed, and that today, principle had mattered more than party. Jasmine Crockett finally rose one last time. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She stood as a symbol of every person who had ever been silenced. "I was called a moron," she said, her voice clear and strong. "But I didn't scream. I didn't shrink. I documented. I exposed. And I stood." She looked out at the chamber, at her colleagues now on their feet, at the cameras broadcasting her to the world. "This isn't just a moment," she declared, her voice ringing with the force of a movement being born. "This is for every person who has been told their voice doesn't matter. The time for silence is over. Now is the time for action. We are not asking for permission. We are demanding change." The hearing was over. But outside, as the sun set on the Capitol, the story was just beginning. A young girl, no older than 11, stood by the gates. She held up a simple, handmade sign. In big, bold letters, it read, "My Congresswoman is not a moron. She's a fighter." That sign, that girl, that moment, it was a truth. Jasmine Crockett hadn't just won a debate. She had reminded a divided nation that words have consequences, that truth still has power, and that sometimes the strongest person in the room isn't the one who shouts the loudest, but the one who stands for something real. And in doing so, she gave a voice back to millions. Thank you for watching. The fight for truth and dignity is never easy, but it's always worth it. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share it. Let us know in the comments what this story meant to you, because together, our voices make a difference. Until next time, stand tall.